This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry.
We'll start with roll call, please.
Wayne. Here. Michael.
Here.
Daniels.
Here.
Here.
All right. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item tonight is a proclamation. We had a group in to help us determine what the official ice cream for DeSoto this summer. So we have a proclamation to commemorate that effort. So whereas the city of DeSoto values involvement of its citizens in the community decisions, and whereas the participants of the Learn Nature Camp on City Government Day 2025 selected the official ice cream flavor for the city for 2025, and whereas the chosen flavor reflects the taste and spirit of our community, and whereas the city of DeSoto aims to celebrate and promote community engagement and joy through this selection, therefore I, Rick Walker, Mayor of DeSoto, proclaim bubble gum as the official ice cream for DeSoto for 2025. If you would like to come up and join me, well, I will present the proclamation to our crew. Get a picture. Hold up here.
Here, let's switch up.
I'm gonna put this out in front of you guys and
You
you can
want to hold
hold
it
it.
as an important piece of paper?
Look and say,
1, 2,
ice,
bubble gum.
ice cream. Bubble gum ice cream. Yeah, that's yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks again. Thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes from the July 3rd City Council meeting, approval of pay ordinance number 1001, approved resolution 2068 updating city fees, approved bid for the Aquatic Center pool painting project, approved acceptance of easements and right-of-way for Tillery Estates, approved contract with Columbia Capital Management LLC, and approved ordinance 2657 amending the time-limited parking in downtown DeSoto. Is there any item anyone would wish to remove for further discussion?
Yeah, I wish to remove 1A and 1F for further discussion.
We have a motion to approve then pending, with the amendment.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda less item 1A and 1F.
I'll second that. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Wayne.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
McMoran.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Yes to item
1E.
1E.
Motion carries.
All right. So we'll go in order then, item 1A.
1A I'd make a motion to approve the minutes, but amending it to include that in the discussion of the YMCA 4A, that there was a request to have staff start engaging on property discussions.
I will make that revision.
All right. You made that as a
I
motion,
made
right?
that as a motion.
We have a second on that. Second. All right. Can we do an all in favor, just a voice vote on that?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Item 1F.
So 1F, you want to give a rundown of that real quick, Patrick? 1F?
Yeah,
Columbia
just
Capital.
as indicated in the memo, we have many reporting obligations under existing laws, and then there's a new law that's been passed requiring us to make pretty detailed reporting to the Kansas Secretary of Commerce on any economic incentives that we authorize. And I think as Mike can attest to, Bonnie, I mean, she simply does not have the time to fulfill those obligations. So Jeff White's firm, Columbia Capital, they represent numerous cities in Johnson County and outside Johnson County. They're the financial advisor for Topeka. So they are well versed in the reporting requirements, and so I'm more comfortable having Columbia Capital be in charge of that than they're relying on Bonnie Bennett or staff. So that's why we recommend the contract with Columbia Capital back in.
And on the fee structure, that's irrelevant of the amount of tax abatement, the amount of IRB, the amount of TIF, CID, star bonds, that's just a flat rate. So our smaller developments would be like on an IRB, if it's a 10-year IRB, paying $60,000 over the course of it for fees to Columbia Capital. A smaller TIF versus the Astra TIF would be paying the same amount over the course of the project. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah. Except for when I spoke with Jeff White, he shared that, you know, if there was a situation that there was nothing to do on or minimal, then he would reflect that in the invoice that he sends to the city.
Okay, but the contract doesn't read that way.
No, you're right.
So if there's not that much to do, wouldn't the fees be an up to versus a flat rate?
I mean, I can talk to Jeff about that, but this was his preferred contract. I mean, we do, so for example, on IRBs, we do have yearly due diligence that needs to be done on assuring that the property properly exempted. Many times we have the sales tax exemption certificate that has to be sent to the state. That's something that Jeff would be stepping into to do that communication.
But the IRB reporting is once a year, and that I believe is $500 that report. So this is increasing those fees by 12 times.
Say that again?
And I believe the IRB reporting is $500 annually in it on the current statute and current fee.
No, Jeff doesn't charge.
No,
us
what
anything.
I'm saying the city. If I have an IRB right now with the city, my annual reporting cost is
$2,500.
$2,500. Okay, so this would be increasing it, and this is not retroactive to previous IRBs?
No.
But moving forward, again, I mean, if we have small developers coming in, it's going to be burdensome to them. So I do question the flat rate. I do question the reporting. I also, at a certain point, go, okay, if we have how many of these being reported, at what point is it actually cost effective to actually have somebody on staff be doing this and stepping many thousands of dollars a month for this?
Well, just to be clear, these fees will be paid by the city, not the developer. These will be paid by the city.
And not passed on to the developer?
No.
Okay. At what point is it more cost effective to actually have somebody hired to do this versus the fees that we'd be paying here then?
That's more of my question.
Yeah,
Because
so
these fees would rack up really, really fast.
Yeah, the one thing, and I don't know the answer to the question. I did put together a list just today of all the existing incentives. I didn't categorize them, but there's more than a dozen that are ongoing right now that we, the new legislation will call for us to have an additional report. One of my concerns would be the legal expertise. It seems like it's sort of an administrative task, but really it's there's some importance to making sure the task is done on time and done correctly, and with some legal review aspect there. So I have that concern as well. But I don't have, just on a dollars basis, we can get the answer for you. I don't have it right now.
Yeah, because I mean, some of these would be ongoing for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. It was annual,
And
right?
so that's going to be a substantial amount of fees over time, especially with some of the developments that are potential as far as the amount of acreage that's available in DeSoto and things like that.
Yeah, okay, I see your point. I mean, it might make sense on smaller ones to have some sliding, adjustment there, at least on the application fees we charge those developers, having a flat rate for all of them. Seems like it might not be a one size fits all.
Well, if we're not passing this on to them, then we're footing the bill entirely for it.
What's our first reporting, what's the effective date of the July 1?
The legislation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it went into effect July 1. Actually, we have to do some reporting for prior incentives as well.
Okay.
Law. So, I mean, we have plenty of time.
Let's bring it, flush this out a little more and bring it back next meeting.
So
Yep.
motion to table the item 1F from the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right.
And Mayor, just so everyone's aware, I can't get the YouTube live stream going. I think it has to do with this reset that we've had. Not having any luck. But we are recording the go-to meeting and we'll upload that to YouTube tomorrow possibly.
All right.
Not happening. Sorry.
All the public, members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted upon by the council during this meeting. There is a 1 minute time limit. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? All right, I'm not seeing any takers, so we will go on to item 4A.
Yes, council, I included a fairly extensive memo in the packet with attachments. Bottom line, the city received a complaint about the retail use of property at 31305 West 89th Street. So in reacting to that complaint, we did conclude that, this is a residentially zoned property, and just bottom line, our zoning regulations do not allow a retail store in a residential zoning. So for tonight, really, we don't have to get into the merits of, should this be allowed or should it not? Really, the question before you is, do you want to initiate through the city's normal process an amendment to our regulations that would allow this type of use? This property is over 6 acres, so in talking about this among staff, we did have the thought that, maybe there would be an opportunity with acreage, unlike a single lot in town where you have extra acreage, maybe, that would be appropriate. But again, the planning commission will need to weigh in on this. And then ultimately, if you do make a motion to initiate the text amendment, it will come back to you for final decision on amending the city regulations. Also, as addressed in the memo, we've asked if there is a motion to initiate a text amendment, if you can also authorize code enforcement to suspend enforcement as to this retail use until the text amendment is resolved. So with that,
Okay.
I'll stand for questions.
So I had asked to find out how many parcels are in DeSoto or zoned R1 that are greater than 6 acres, just to see if we were allowed some sort of called boutique retail or micro retail to occur, how, what would be the propensity that it could, how many sites would that affect in the city? And it looks like that's a dozen and a half potentially. So the other thing that the complaint occurred on, I think, a grand opening day with a lot of traffic, a lot of visitors to the site on that day, which likely wouldn't have been much different than had a large garage sale or something at the same location, which they could still do twice a year. So I think in my mind, I know that retail in residential is kind of verboten, in hard zoning worlds. But then I've also read through a little bit of research that they call micro retail or boutique retail is when you limit customer traffic and you make sure that you have adequate provisions for parking and that it's not an overly burdensome impact on the community. That there are locations around the nation that are promoting this as a way to I think maybe as a result of the COVID and the work at home thing or something, that whole heard that. But one unique place is Lafayette, Louisiana. I wouldn't have thought that, but Lafayette, Louisiana has a micro retail zoning or provision in their residential zoning that allows this kind of use. So my estimation, it probably worth some exploring. I know that Missy's here with a lot of supporters, Don, and I thought, and I know that somebody was upset by it on that opening day. So there is another side to that, but throw it out there.
I was going to say, one of the questions I've got, a couple things. I'm very open to having that be explored and sending that through Planning Commission. Are there actually two issues here, being the retail and then the location of the building as far as codes enforcement?
Yeah, I think that the location of the building is a easily solved item. I think it needs to slide back 5 feet.
Okay.
Because it used an overhang as the reference line for the front structure.
Okay.
Yeah, with the owner, sorry.
Yeah.
They've told us that if the text amendment does not go through, they'll likely be moving the building to an entirely different location on the property.
Okay.
So we thought, why make them
Move it
move
twice.
it during the pendency of the text amendment. I would also note too that currently our regs, we have provisions for home occupations, but that's out of the home. Currently we don't allow, other than, as the mayor mentioned, garage sales, but
So
we
if this
don't allow a home
so
occupation.
if this was a secondary building just for a home office, would that be allowed under our regulations,
We have certain ones that you could do that.
but not others?
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, but no, for our home occupations, you have to be doing it out of the residential structure.
So you
Not
could,
in this. Yeah, you could.
so a secondary structure, if you wanted to, if I was an insurance agent or real estate agent and I built a little micro office detached from the house, that would not be allowed under our regulations either.
Correct.
Given you've got a long history of the planning.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly, time goes by and things change, and at least willing to consider it, maybe not approve, but at least willing to consider it. I'm surprised we've got a 6-acre parcel zoned R1. So I guess I was thinking, my thought would be, well, this might be applicable for RO type situations where you're already looking at a larger lot scenario. You know, I know in our neighborhood it's not there anymore, but a guy ran a machine shop where he basically machined like NASCAR or caliber heads. And I always kind of wondered, that's probably not legal or not code compliant, but it was also non-invasive because everything was shipped in and out. But he was doing business out there. So I guess I would say if we are having planning commission look at it, I would also ask that they look at in what zones that might be applicable. Smaller R1 situation could become invasive. This one, you could probably have switched to RO, accommodated it
Yeah.
because you do have the space.
I guess that's kind of what so there were more ROs than there were R1s that were bigger than 6 acres. But so in my mind, if we wanted to limit the use, then there are a very limited number of R1 parcels that are greater than 6 acres. So set the criteria for this for a site that was big enough to accommodate the off-street parking.
So having the acreage requirement on the
Yeah.
zoning, not just the zoning.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so I was thinking it would be more like that it would be over 6 acres, that it would limit the size of the retail operation to 250. Limit the number of the hours of the week, require a certain number of off-street parking spaces, you know.
Yeah, I'd say that's the role of the planning commission, is to
Yeah.
vet it out, to do the research, to look at alternatives. That's their role.
I know they don't. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'd like to add, I think a reasonable request in the sense, right now, when you look around, there's really no place to even rent, to open up a boutique or anything for other businesses right now. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, but we'll have more in the future, but right now there's not a lot of availability to open.
There's not an opportunity for this to
Yeah.
locate somewhere else right now in the appropriately zoned area.
A lot of times
You said that
these-
much better.
These can be incubators
Right.
to create a larger. So do we need a motion or do we just need
I
a,
think, do we need a motion to send it to the?
or just a?
We need a motion to suspend code enforcement.
We do need a motion, yeah, to suspend the code.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
when we do send it to planning commission, I would probably have them be inclusive of what we mentioned as far as even just allowing that as an office space type of thing, whether it
Right.
be retail or I'm having my office out of my home, but on the property in the similar size, similar requirements. So.
Anything to add over here?
So we're gonna approve.
So we'll make a motion to
Suspend the.
So I'll make a motion to suspend the codes enforcement during the time of the planning commission considering this. And if the planning commission sends a recommendation to us, then the codes enforcement would still be suspended until action is taken by council. Is that too wordy?
Yeah, and so just because I'm trying to make sure I get this right. So we're just gonna have a motion to suspend code enforcement. That's, At this-
Until it's settled at the appropriate governing body level of planning commission or council.
got that.
And you said, did you second?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane. Hanneman.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
McEwen.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
I think,
Does the mayor need to vote on this?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
there we go. Motion carries.
All right. Item 4B. Receive presentation regarding the DeSoto Library renovation.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we have officially entered our community partners portion of the agenda where we're going to have the library come in and talk about our renovation. And then shortly after that, we'll have our quarterly sheriff's report. So with that, I will introduce our county librarian. I was told there would be a song and dance, but
I don't know what.
but they're here to kind of talk about the upcoming exciting renovation at the DeSoto Library. I'll turn it over to you.
Maybe we'll just Give a minute.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. As Mr. Mills said, I'm Tricia Solentrop. I'm the county librarian for the Johnson County Library System. I'm here with our architect from BC Design Group to share updates on the renovations at the DeSoto Library. I wanted to first thank you all for your many years of partnership and probably more recently in the past couple of years, investment of time talking with us about your growth and our plans and how that intersects. We know that the city of DeSoto shares our mission of access to information, ideas, materials, and experiences for your growing community. And I'm very happy to report that library supports ice cream flavors
Of all varieties.
to our earlier agenda. So just a little bit about the Johnson County Library. You can go to the next slide before we get into the specifics. Next slide. So then you'll see a map of the county and our service area. The Johnson County Library serves the entire county with the exception of Olathe. Olathe has their own separate city library, so we coordinate heavily and wonderfully with them, but we do have two library systems in this county. Olathe has 2 locations, we have 14, so you have 16 opportunities to use a public library. The Johnson County Library was established in 1952 by a group of volunteers who were concerned that we did not have a public library in the county. And so they pounded the pavement, got their voices heard, and ultimately started a library system. That group continued on as the Friends of the Library System. So we hold our volunteers near and dear. Current library service in DeSoto has been around since 1967 in various forms and in various buildings. The current location downtown opened in 1982. And then as far as the governance of the Johnson County Library, county commissioners are one of our favorites is present today, Commissioner Alan Brand, appoint a member from each district and then 1 at-large library board member. So it's a 7-member library board, and that is laid out in the Kansas State Statutes 12-1222. The Johnson County Library Board is an independent statutory policy-making board. So the policies of the library are considered and voted on by the library board members. I'm the county librarian, and then in the audience we have John Kehoe, who is the regional manager for this particular area. So we are also, if you're quick at math, we're headed to our 75th birthday, and we decided since we opened the DeSoto Library in 1982, probably you all deserve an update of substantial portions, on your 40th-ish birthday. So that's a little bit about the history of the library. So as far as onto the specific project, lots of dates and timelines on the slide in front of you, but I wanted to give you a little context of how we launched this journey. You all know that sometimes the length of construction or new building really focuses on just what you see when it's happening, and what you don't see is all the planning in the prior year. So the library board back in 2018 approved a study to renovate and modernize both the DeSoto location and our Spring Hill location. So once we determined the scope of that study, then we did public engagement to understand and hear from patrons about their needs. And the things we heard, of course, that they enjoy their library, but they'd love to have a little bit more space to study, to meet, to collaborate. And so on the current footprint that we're limited by, the post office doesn't want to move and give us more space for whatever reason. So we are very proud that we're going to be able to incorporate a new study room and a new conference room in that design as we redesign the inside of that. The library board then approved the budget in 2023 for these projects. The funding for this project, both of these projects is coming out of library reserves. So there's not an additional tax. This is money that we have saved knowing we wanted to do some projects. And then in 2024, we onboarded our architects, BC Design Group. And then this year we onboarded Titan Built as our construction manager. And so the next few steps that we'll be looking at, we've recently completed design and construction documents. So we're finalizing bidding now. In August at the library board meeting on August 14th, they will approve the guaranteed maximum price and then also look at the closing dates. Right now, we're targeting early September for the DeSoto branch to close. We'll do both of these projects in Spring Hill and DeSoto at the same time, so they'll start a little bit ahead of you because they have a little bit more space, and then we'll turn to DeSoto as well. So a few of the renovation highlights that we are very excited to get started on, and a lot of this is direct response from the community during that community engagement. Of course, the first bullet point, the study room and conference room. We have all kinds of uses for those in all of our libraries, and so DeSoto is no different. And then the typical things that you would see that we're excited about: enhanced kids area, as well as the outdoor patio on the front of the building. Right now, that's sidewalk and flagpole and ballot box. So we're going to upgrade that a little bit with seating and landscaping to add to the downtown feel. So that's important, I know, to you all as well as us. And then the typical things you would see: new carpet, new paint, all of those types of finishes. So we're excited to work with our architect and to really get a really wonderful looking library and wonderful functioning library as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Hillary, and she's going to kind of talk you through the site plans and some of the renderings.
Thank you, Tricia. You can go to the next slide. So like Tricia said, my name is Hillary Beshore. I'm the architect of the BC Design Group working on this project. And Brooke Sinelli was meant to be here tonight. She had a family health emergency, so she is unable to be here. So I said I would apologize for her. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a kind of broad project overview. So on this first slide on the left, you'll see an orientation plan. If anyone is unfamiliar with where the library is, it's downtown. It's across from the fire station, next door to the post office. And on the right, you'll see the site plan, what this new site in front of the library will look like. So you can see some seating incorporated on the left-hand side. We'll have added vegetation to bring some curb appeal to the library, and then also an ADA compliant ramp to get into the building. And here's what that starts to look like in 3 dimensions. So we're going to bring a new facade to the building and liven it up a little bit, as well as add all of those new pedestrian-friendly areas. This next slide is the floor plan. So on the left, it's kind of generic areas. When you come in the door, to the left on the plan is the kids area. To the right is the adult area. In red, you see our conference and study rooms towards the back of the plan. So in a little bit quieter zone, you're going to have those conference and study rooms. Staff spaces towards the rear of the building, and they can utilize that back door in if they need to. On the right-hand side, you're seeing the plan with a little bit more detail. So you're starting to see where bookshelves could be, that we're going to keep computers, both in the adult area and also have kid-dedicated computers. And you can start to see the furniture that's in those study and conference rooms. So one will accommodate 3 to 4 people, the other will accommodate 6 to 8. And this is some renderings of what the inside could look like. So this is looking at the kids area. We're going to have some fun acoustical light fixtures that's going to help to reduce sound in that area. We are working to create a mural that represents downtown DeSoto and include that in the kids area. And we will incorporate all of the other things you're used to seeing at Johnson County Libraries, like interactive kids units, low bookshelves that the kids can get into on their own, and a fun little nook for kids to come into and read. And our next image is of the adult area. So this is kind of sitting at the main service desk looking towards the adult computers. You can see all of the stacks there. The study room is towards the back. We did our best to maximize the light that's coming into this area and use windows throughout the space so that we can really share that light as far back into the building as we can. That's all I have. I'll turn it back over to you, Tricia.
So as you can see on the slide, these are our next steps. I mentioned our expected close date when renovation work would begin, and then we expect that we will open back up in the spring of 2026. We are, before we're closing, as citizens are getting to know about this, staff is helping patrons reroute their holds if they have another branch that they prefer to pick their holds up at. We have staff that work at the DeSoto Library that are working on a variety of ways to stay connected with the community, things like DeSoto Days, Halloween at the Fest, and of course the mayor's tree lighting. So we'll be present at a lot of those specific events. I am happy to stand for questions, and if you go to the next slide, if you have questions after this, or you want to keep up with updates on this project, those are ways that you can always connect with us and find our updates, whether that's video or a little bit of text. So happy to stand for questions.
Questions from council? Yeah, I'll just share. I think it was your grandma that started the library back when I was in kindergarten, before it predated the Johnson County involvement. She said those kids need books to read. And
I like your grandma. The other person I want to thank is our project coordinator, Megan. She's been coordinating all of this, and I know has worked closely with you all, so she'll be involved along the way as the project and kind of shepherding that. So you may see her and John at future meetings, or if you're around and walking by the project. So
maybe you could break out that bookmobile we had way back then.
it's on my list. All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. We will move on to our presentation and update from the Johnson County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, Mayor, this is our second quarter update from the Sheriff's Office. We have Dan and Josh, I don't know if we've introduced you, but we actually have double the liaisons with the reorganization of the Sheriff's Office. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure he was introduced.
Come on up. Good evening, Council. As Brenda said, Captain Dan Durst with the Sheriff's Office, and my counterpart here, Captain Josh Tice. Thank you for having us to discuss the second quarter statistics and answer any questions you might have. When I was before you back in April, I mentioned the second quarter is actually the first quarter that we're fully utilizing the Power BI system that is in the packet that you're handed. Additionally, this is also the first full quarter where we have the restructuring that took place that was alluded to, where the patrol division is now its own separate entity, and Captain Tice is now over a community policing unit, direct patrol unit, and no longer PIO. But so the community policing unit also houses your dedicated district deputy, while the dedicated district officer or deputy is within my division. So, like I say, any questions I can answer, and as we go through, so I'm happy to do so, and Josh can speak to his part of this. The first slide there, of course, is the dispatch calls, the total dispatch calls. What's important to remember about this is not just the district officer for our one district, which incorporates DeSoto, or the dedicated deputies that you have to the city. This is anybody that we may are having activity within this district. That could be civil division, it could be supervisors in the patrol division, whatever it may be. So that is why you see the number of calls that you do. And as you look at that, the mapping system there is just each dot represents every call for service that took place within the city during that quarter. The next one is going to be our Group A offenses. So when I was before you in April, one of the requests was that we have a comparison quarter to quarter to the previous year. I want to stress again, this system is very versatile. So anything that you would like, it is likely that we can adapt it to your needs. So as I said, just communicate that to us and we'll get with our crime analyst. And if there's something specific you would like to see, we will do our best to make that happen. All right. Let's say any specific questions. The first slide is for 2024 second quarter, and the next slide is for this quarter. Okay. Some of the takeaways, for example, you'll see the Group A offenses and Group B. In the Group B offenses, for example, there were 59 in 2024 and 54 this quarter in 2025. 85 non-reportable and 103 non-reportable this year, making a total of 281. Any questions I can answer specifically about the Type A and Type B offenses for Group A and Group B? Okay. So the next map is just basically what I refer to as a dot map. Again, it shows every call that took place with in the city limits here during that quarter. So you can see most of the activity, of course, is centered within the main part of town and along the highways and things like that. Another thing that was requested last quarter was specific information about the area along 103rd Street there where Panasonic is. And so if you go to the next map, you'll see that as well. As you can see, just in that quarter, we only had the 5 stops right there along 103rd Street. Okay. The next map is a heat map. It just generally shows kind of a, well, as it's named, the heat map showing where all those calls took place. Okay, just kind of that concentration. And again, with the request from last time, the second map is a heat map showing the activity along 103rd Street there. Again, with just a handful of calls, it's actually very light. And when Brandon and I were speaking originally, he wasn't sure that it was actually showing up in what I was sending him, but that is the actual representation. All right. For this last quarter, we had a total of 6 accidents. That is actually up 2 from this time last year, but still, that's just half a dozen accidents. As I said, we're patrolling the areas along K10 and city streets, and of course along 103rd there where that greater activity has taken place over recent months. And I like to say, I'm very happy with the fact that there's that low number of accidents. And this is one that might be of great interest to the council here. This is with our e-ticket system. This is able to very readily draw that data. As you can see, for this last quarter, for DeSoto Municipal Court, there were 269 tickets written out of 379 total violations. What that represents is there may have been multiple violations on the same citation, right? And 160 warnings were given. And of course, we gave 94 tickets for Johnson County District Court and 125 violations total and 56. And of course, drug cases for the county were a total of 9 violations, but 5 citations issued. And one thing I began including as well to show activity going on, the next slide is our field apprehension unit, our warrants unit. During the last quarter, only 1 warrant was served within the city limits. Right. And with that, lost the page, sorry. My key takeaway slide there, right there it is. I can probably read it better from here. So as I said, dispatch calls decreased from 829 to 753 this year. Self-initiated calls increased from 1,242 to 1,873. Part of that too, as we spoke last quarter, is there was a good or a great uptick in our interdiction efforts. So a lot of drug cases and things like that. So making those stops and locating that. Traffic citations saw a slight increase, or accidents from 4 to 6, as I said. But Group A offenses were stable year to year, and we saw Group B offenses decrease by about 8%. And with that, any questions that either of us could answer for you?
I think you answered the question I had in the last statement, and that was the Group A offenses of the drugs.
Yes, sir.
From last quarter to this quarter went up from 27 to 47. So my question was going to be, was that a specific focus of interdiction that you guys had?
Part of it was, so I've been in this position as the patrol division commander for a year this month. Prior to my coming in, we had a lot of people who were in training. As they got out of training and came out on their own, there was more activity generated because we didn't have to have a trainer with a recruit. So that's what results in a lot of that. But again, it's also the supervisors that are out there. It's the civil division when they're performing their activities within the district or within the city. So there's just been that, not necessarily more focus on that. It's just we had more activity taking place, which resulted in more cases.
Anyone else? Yep, go ahead.
Love the picture there. Love the picture there towards the end. You're out there, Rhythm and Roots. That's awesome. Can you speak a little bit towards community engagement activity, community engagement?
Actually, I will turn that over to Josh. This is his specialty right here, sir.
Hello again, I'm Josh
It's
Tice.
question times two.
Okay. So with the restructuring, there was an emphasis of having more supervision dedicated to our community policing, not just for DeSoto, but for the county as a whole. So that's where part of my role is focusing community policing. So we have a number of events, whether it's the picture you see there, the Rhythm and Roots, the recent 4th of July event, things of that nature that are your formal events that we are participating in. The parade, we tried to have more of a presence in all the parades that we've been doing, and we've tried to engage more through whether it's Coffee with a Cop or other events like that, touch a truck type events. We've been doing that throughout the county in different places and trying to collaborate more with all the cities. So again, the dedicated officers that you have in the city, there's 2 of them, and recently there was a switch from Josie Shelton to Alan Heidi as one of your new officers, if you weren't aware of that. But what we've tried to make sure that they are doing is that when there are these events going on, that they are, when they're on duty, participating in those as well, and trying to be the formal face of our agency for your citizens.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate the update.
Thank you for having us. Sure. And again, I want to reiterate, if there's anything specific you would like to see as far as data capture, please let me know. And like I say, with this system and with our crime analyst, I'm sure we can make it happen for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving on. Now we will consider our HID and development agreement with Arbor Ridge.
Yes, council. So a few meetings ago, you were presented with a development plan submitted by Highland. And the step now, so back then we scheduled a public hearing to have as to that plan. The plan's included in your packet. So at the public hearing, the purpose of that is to consider the ordinance that I've included in the packet. But we won't take formal action on that ordinance until next meeting. Same with the development agreement. There are some issues we're still trying to work out between the city and the developer that we needed additional time on. So we will also have the formal development agreement in the packet for the next meeting. But since we scheduled the public hearing for tonight, we need to go ahead and proceed with that. As you know, really, the RHID is not, it's not the city's financing or the city's money at issue. It is future tax revenues, property tax revenues that are developed from the improvements of the development. Also, the RHID increment that's being requested can only be used to reimburse the developer for public improvements. So, for example, there's significant work on 89th Street, the interior streets of the development, all of those public improvements. That's the only thing that can be used to reimburse the developer. And the request that the developer is making is 60% of the increased tax increment over a period of 25 years. I know Dan Taylor is here, I believe has a short presentation for the council.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Dan Taylor. I'm here on behalf of myself and Rick Oda, who is the other developer on this project. The proposal and the presentation, it's pretty much the same as I presented last time to you guys. um, with a few nuances. Can you go to the next slide? What happened?
Well, I wanted to say yes, I really did.
There it is, Magic Mike.
Don't get good there. Not in the minutes, Brandon.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
So since we met last, we've actually closed on the land, so it is now officially ours. So we have real money at work here. So as we said last time, we know there's a need for housing here, and we are all about home ownership and the benefits to the citizens here, to create wealth and long-term wealth strategies for the citizens of DeSoto. This is a for sale product, a for sale neighborhood. It's not a rental project, which is different from the project I'm building right now, right across from JT's, those townhomes you see that are popping up. That's a rental community, but this is for a sale product. It talks a little about Rick and my careers in terms of our experience as developers. We've built collectively over $1 billion worth of real estate, from subdivisions to commercial projects and everything else in between. I love the residential part. I'm a residential builder. I'm an active residential builder. I specialize in building single family, custom homes, spec homes. And so this is right up my alley. I really enjoy that. So I'll be one of the primary builders they're building. We're not going to wholesale these off to some other building company. I can't build them all, of course, because we're talking about 182, but we would like to have a lot of local builders come and join in, as well as myself. Some projects that we've done, we can just pass over that. There's been some big ones. So here is the Arbor Ridge site that we now currently own, and this is a concept plan that Don Parr had submitted, and he's got a few different products there that reflect what's currently at the existing Arbor Ridge. There are villa lots, there are duplex lots, there are single family lots, and he has estate lots. Right below that, I've included some alternative products that we are going to consider, and this is all market driven. There's no use in building a bunch of expensive big houses that nobody can afford or want to buy, right? So I think we're going to be fluid in terms of whatever the market is demanding. We all know that real estate and the cost of building is going up, and we need to sort of mitigate that through the offerings of homes that families can afford, right? So there's a small home concept that we're investigating, and then also townhomes. I've built a number of townhome communities. They're lock and leave, they're turnkey, they're phenomenal, particularly for the young couples and the ones that want to downsize. It's there's not a whole lot of responsibility. It's all maintained, and so everyone kind of knows what their monthly expenses are, and it's basically soup to nuts maintenance, from snow to roof to concrete to windows, et cetera. So we're looking at possibly building some of those. On the next slide, you'll see just some concept drawings. There's the villa lots. We're hoping that we can bring those in starting at $495. The larger single family lots, we're hoping we can bring those in at $460,000. We'll have duplex offerings as well, and we hope that those are around $425,000. aside. And then the alternative ones that I have on here included that small house concept, which is on the right, which is really a pretty neat concept. They're popping up all over the U.S. and it's a way for a family to begin and grow, and then eventually, they will upsize somewhere else. And the other ones are the townhomes concept, which are also, I think, what help make it affordable and reachable for those who, are starting out. So those are some of the products we're looking at. It won't be too different from what Arbor Ridge has already started, but we may have a few other additional offerings so that we can be inclusive and allow people that may not be able to afford housing, to get in there and buy. One of the major reasons why we're asking for the RHID is, the cost of construction is going up. We've seen horizontal move from $110 a linear foot to $1,600 and growing. We've got, as you guys know, there's excessive rock all over this county and all over the city. You've probably seen how much rock we've hauled out of that place I'm building over there, but Arbor Ridge has really got a ton. My gosh, it's unbelievable. There's a very extreme grade change. It's 60 to 70 feet from one end to the next. That's going to be expensive. We're going to have to do a lot of deep digging when we start setting sewers, et cetera, et cetera. Sewers also is another issue. We've got some pump stations we got to do, injection pits on the western side, and then we get gravity down on the sort of northeast side. So we've got some challenges there, and then the other one that the city that you guys have basically mandated in a necessary way is that 89th Street has to be improved, right? And the standards in which we're being asked to improve they're not cheap, right? It's going to be pretty fancy. If you want to go to the next slide, I don't need to elaborate on these. Joe, you know the specs. They're described there, but it's going to be 2 lanes. There's going to be sidewalks. There's going to be bike lanes. We're being asked to do a turn on Kill Creek into 89th Street. Plus, we're being asked not just to develop the ground or the street in front of us, but we're being asked to develop it all the way to Kill Creek, which it's expensive. So, again, a reason why we are asking for our HID's help, because we're doing a lot of public improvements here for the city. It's going to be great when it's done, but it's going to be expensive when, to get there. I think you guys all know the virtues of the RHID. Voted to adopt it. We can skip that slide. And then finally, we're super committed. In the development agreement, we're going to be held accountable. We're being asked to spend, I think, $8-ish million in the first 24 months, or we're looking at reductions in the RHID. So we're super motivated. We have no interest in delaying this. We want to get going. We want to start building houses. And we've also got this clock that's being imposed. So we're not looking to stretch this out. We're ready. We want to build. We know there's a need, and we're going to start. And we've got the wherewithal. We're not beholden to banks or all of that stuff. We're going to start building. And then the 60% piece, I mean, we really researched that hard. And we met with the school board a number of times to get their opinion and their thoughts on it. And so that's how we came up with the number of 60%. It's not egregious. I don't think it's an overreach. I think it's a number that works for everybody. And it gets what we want done and gets what you guys want. And it also helps solve the housing issue and improves 89th Street. That's primarily it. That's our presentation. So we're excited and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys. And if you have any questions,
Any questions for Dan? Or Jeff, I think you had a financial analysis you did for us on this. Would you want to come up and run through that for us, please?
ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Jeff White with Columbia Capital. We did indeed perform a financial analysis here. And one of the requirements of the city's economic development policy with respect to this incentive, as well as many others, is a finding that but for the presence of the incentive, the project couldn't proceed. You heard Dan talk about the specific site challenges they're trying to overcome. And certainly that goes into that calculation. But rather than just taking his word for it, we also tried to put a little math to it. And you can see that calculation in our financial analysis. And what we found here is an outcome that we're seeing pretty consistently across housing construction projects, not just in Johnson County, but elsewhere as well. And it reflects sort of an interesting time in the economic cycle. And so basically the concept of the but-for test is to the extent that we can, we look at what we expect the projected developer's rate of return to be versus a market rate of return. In some cases, we can use data available that's collected by large real estate development firms or brokerage firms, CBRE, those types of folks. We can use data that's actually collected by the Johnson County Appraiser's Office to look at the rates of returns that they are seeing in actual sales of residential and commercial properties in the county as well. And then we can compare that to, based upon the information the developer provides to us, what we expect the rate of return to be in that case. We then look at, it's really sort of a 4-box approach. So the project with incentives and without incentives, assuming 100% funding with developer equity. So if the developer paid for the project with 100% cash, we look at with incentives, without incentives. We call that an unleveraged calculation or project return. The reason we look at that is when third parties collect data on what rates of return for actual projects in the wild are, they are looking at unleveraged rates of return. And the reason they are looking at that is because when we interject financing into the mix, the structure of financings is different from project to project. So we just presume for a second that the project is 100% financed with equity, and that allows us to compare a project in DeSoto, Kansas to a project in DeSoto, Texas. It doesn't matter. We can also compare it to what the rate of return would be if Dan took his cash and he bought a treasury bill instead, right? So that is a helpful context. We have third-party benchmarks that we can rely on. The challenge with a leveraged product is it's pretty rare for any developer to do a 100% cash financed project. And so we also look at a leveraged return, both with and without incentives, and that presumes some level of debt that is involved. The challenge with a leveraged calculation is there are no third-party benchmarks because, as I mentioned, every financing package is different. And so in that particular case, we sort of have to rely on what we are hearing from other developers, from other projects, what seems to be sort of a reasonable estimate of rates of return. And what we are finding both in this project and in other housing projects at the moment is that we get conflicting results between the leveraged rate of return and the unleveraged rate of return. So in this particular case, when we look at the incentives the developer is asking for on an unleveraged basis or project basis, we're actually showing that without incentives, they're achieving a market rate of return. When we look at what they're getting with the actual structure of the financing they're planning, which includes some debt, they're well below what a reasonable rate of return would be. And so our conclusions here are that the incentives are warranted. This project will include debt. And our expectation is, and what we're hearing from other projects in the area is without the incentives, they won't get the debt. Banks are looking for this as well. And there are other metrics that banks look at that are thresholds that a developer has to meet, debt service coverage ratios and those kinds of things, where the incentives are important and valuable and critical really to making the financing happen. So our conclusion here is this project does meet the but-for test. The challenge for us though, and for the city, is to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a situation where the actual outcomes of the project are different from the ones that we've modeled in a way that would cause that rate of return to dramatically increase in a way that would have changed our conclusion on the but-for test, particularly here because we have that outcome where one test says one thing and another test says another thing. And so you can see in our report that we've provided some recommendations with respect to the things that we think that the city should include in the development agreement to provide reasonable protections for the city. One of those is to make sure that the developer invests a minimum amount in the project. And this sort of goes to the notion of, you said you were going to do a project with X number of units and this kind of mix, and you're going to spend this kind of money. So we're going to ask you as an inducement to get the incentives to spend that amount of money or something reasonably close to what they budget. So if someone says, hey, I'm going to spend $100 million in DeSoto, we may have made a different conclusion here if they had told us at the beginning they were going to only spend $50 million instead. And so if someone says, hey, I'm going to spend $100 million in DeSoto, maybe we say, if you spend below $97 million, just to make up a number, then we're going to modify the incentive package in a way that sort of indexes the amount of incentives down compared to the amount that you're spending there. We also want to make sure that that the amount of capture from the incentives that are being requested, and you have another item on your agenda, there's a companion incentive called Community Improvement District that will relate to the commercial portions of this project, to say, hey, there needs to be an upper limit to the amount of the incentive that can be captured over time. And again, that goes to this notion of making sure that that rate of return doesn't end up exceeding what we would have concluded had we known would be reasonable. And then we want to know some information along the way. This is a situation where the developer in large scale is going to be what's known as a horizontal developer, doing the mass grading, building the pad sites, putting in the streets and the underground infrastructure and the sidewalks and the curbs and gutter and those kinds of things, and then selling the pad sites to third parties to build homes on. And so we've made assumptions based upon the information that they provided about what we expect those pad site sales to be to third parties. Again, those are dollars back to the developer. We calculate that into the rate of return. To the extent those pad sites are twice what we've modeled, the rate of return would be higher than what we've concluded as well. So again, report back to us is basically what we're recommending on what those actual pad sites sales look like. So we're in the midst of negotiating the development agreement to incorporate some of these concepts. Some of these are super easy to implement on paper and a little bit harder for the developer to do in practice. And so that's just sort of a normal give and take as we look at developing the actual implementation of the business transaction as we put this together. So again, our conclusion is project meets the but-for test under the city's policy requirement, but we recommend that the development agreement that you'll see hopefully at the next meeting include a number of protections for the city to make sure that the rate of return the developer sees isn't unreasonable. Mr. Mayor, happy to try to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from council for Jeff before we open the public hearing?
It's only one question on the recommendation of reducing the incentive based upon how much they spend. RHID's kind of like a TIF in that they're getting reimbursed for what they spend. So wouldn't it automatically be sliding if they only spend 50 million instead of 100 million, they're only getting 60% of 50 million instead of 100 million? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
As far as, because we're reimbursing them for what they spend on the increase over that they're developing.
So two dynamics going on there. So one is the reimbursable amount. I think we're at roughly $8 or $9 million in this case without looking at it. So out of that $100 million, we're presuming that roughly $8 or $9 million of that would be RHID eligible for reimbursement. So they could spend way less than $100 million and still qualify for that. But I think where you're going is this notion of if they don't build something to produce incremental tax revenue, then they're not going to generate incremental tax revenue to be able to reimburse themselves. And there is certainly sort of a self-enforcing clawback, if you want to think about it that way, to this kind of incentive. But there is a situation that could emerge again because we have two incentives here where maybe the CID does a bang up result on sales tax where they sort of overperform there and can sort of cross subsidize among the subsidies here. But ultimately, I think this also goes to the notion of, hey, if you want to build a project on your property without asking the city for subsidy, then do whatever you want within the zoning code and build it at whatever pace you want. And if you thought you were going to build 100 homes and you decide to only build 50, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But if you come to us and you say, hey, we're going to build this subdivision, we're going to build 100 homes, and we've got to overcome these challenges, and we're asking you, city, to contribute tax dollars on behalf of not only the city, but every taxing jurisdiction. And then I decide instead of building 100 homes, I'm only going to build 50. There ought to be a change in the business deal that acknowledges the fact that you're doing something different than what you said you were going to do when you showed up to ask for that incentive in the first place. So part of it is, would it work itself out in the wash? Maybe, but maybe not. And the other is sort of this notion of build what you say you're going to build if you're showing up to ask for $8 or $9 million of public subsidy.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jeff. All right, now I'm going to officially open the public hearing for this. And anyone wishing to offer comment on the RHID for Arbor Ridge, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and share your comments. I'm not seeing any takers, so I'm going to close the public hearing. So our next item then is the ordinance 2658, then establishing and approving the Arbor Ridge Reinvestment Housing Incentive District.
So since that ordinance approves the development agreement, we're just going to take that up.
All right.
So do we need a motion to table or just no action?
No, it's, yeah, I guess it was, the ordinance was mentioned. Yeah, so just table the ordinance till the next meeting.
Motion, we table ordinance, what number?
2658.
2658 until the August 7th meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right. All right. Item E, consider resolutions scheduling public hearings for the Grotto development. The first item is consider resolution 2069, setting a date for public hearing for the proposed community improvement development district for the Grotto development.
Yes, council, the action you're being asked tonight is to simply pass a resolution which schedules the public hearing. The CID would allow for the retail portions of the development to collect sales tax in that area. So the public hearing, if you pass the resolution, will be on September 4, 2025.
All right, any questions for Patrick on setting the hearing for the, Community Improvement Development District? A motion to set the,
I'll make a motion, we approve the public hearing on formation of Community Improvement Development District over C2 zone plan northeast corner of Kilbree and Highway for September 4th. Your resolution number 2069.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane?
Yes.
Hanamichael?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
McMorrin?
Yes.
Patterson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so then part two of this would be consider resolution 2070, setting the date for a public hearing for the proposed reinvestment housing incentive district for the private development.
Yes, council. So this would be a different land area for the RHID. As you heard the previous presentation, this request is asking for 60% for 25 years, same as the Arbor Ridge. So again, at this point, you're setting a public hearing on the development plan that is part of your package here that was submitted by Grata.
And that hearing date would be?
Same date.
Same date, September 4th, and it's resolution 2070. And Travis Strom is in the audience. I don't know if you need to add anything, but it's kind of perfunctory at this point.
Any questions from council?
Question on the location. So we haven't updated the incentive map to indicate the previously approved areas. So we have to approve the RHID area, and then somebody can apply for it in that area, right? I know we approved the Odo one. Is this one?
Yeah, we did that
We expanded the
6 or 8
district.
months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess
We
my,
had to redo it.
yeah, the secretary, because that plan was different, so once the plan changed, we resubmitted to the Secretary of Commerce, and they
Okay.
approved this area.
so it's all been updated per this area.
Yep.
I guess my ask would be, could you update the incentive map then to indicate, we haven't put any of the RHID areas on. this.
Yeah, sure. The incentives policy, Matt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Are you requesting that before the September 4th?
No, just an
the
administrative matter.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2070, setting a public hearing on September 4th on the RHID incentive requested by Grata Development for single-family homes at northeast corner of Kilbree.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
McMorrin?
Yes.
Patterson?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Hanamichael?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item F, discuss Wilderness Park camping permit.
Yes, Mayor and Council. This is a recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and city staff to create a permitting system to prevent an extended or repeated camping, long-term camping stays out at Wilderness Park. The policy is modeled after our existing and successful gun range permitting process that's already in place on the north end of the park. Mike, if you would scroll down to Exhibit C, that's probably the most helpful piece of this whole thing. Wilderness Park is located at 13205 Eating Star Road, which is approximately a 20-minute drive from City Hall. If anyone's been out there, it's pretty remote. It includes
Sheriff has, they had a call out there. I saw it on the-
yeah, they do, yeah. And I will say to their credit, I actually pulled their logs and trying to figure out how many people were out there. They're out there 2-3 times a week patrolling that park, so kudos to them. It does include a public gun range on the north end, and then kind of a primitive campsite traditionally used on weekends for scouts and kind of other civic groups. Recent activity, and Jade can speak to it a little bit on this. We've had requests for multi-week RV stays, and we actually did have a confirmed camper who was living out there for upwards of 100 days from December to April, which kind of spurred this whole permitting process. From staff's perspective and park board's perspective, we don't really want this to be a long-term camping site. We want it to be recreational amenity to our residents. The sheriff deputies have visited, like I said, multiple times. They're out there about 2-3 times a week. They've responded to numerous unauthorized, mostly firearm use on the shooting range. People don't realize they need a permit to go out there. And then unfortunately, there is a good amount of underage drinking going out there, especially at the campsite. But that kind of changed. The calls changed in January as we started to see get reports of a long-term camper. Again, this camper, well, I will say he was harmless. Jay and I actually met him once or twice. Very nice gentleman. But he was out there for 100 days. We didn't really have a mechanism to get him out outside of just trespassing him. So when we met with the Parks and Recreation Board about this issue, we kind of came up with a policy. And our recommendation is basically Friday through Sunday, camping, a maximum of 72 hours with a limit of 3 weekends or 3 occurrences per month. The reason why we're suggesting weekends is it is a 20-minute drive. And if someone was to go out there at the staff level to do some mowing, we want to make sure that they're able to do that in a timely manner without having to go around any campsites that's out there. The permitting process, like I mentioned, mirrors the shotgun range permit we have. And so what happens right now is those permits come to me. I process them. I send an email to Parks and Rec staff as well as the sheriff's office so they're aware of who's out there. And so with that, this is just kind of a light touch for us to kind of keep track of who's out there so we know what's going on and kind of limit the long-term camping out there. So Jay, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to mention out there, but I did draft a policy and get you kind of a copy of the draft application we're looking at. Patrick did take a peek at this just to make sure it was enforceable. But with that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, any questions for Brandon or Jay or Patrick on the camping at Wilderness?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
As far as marketing and signage?
Yeah. So we will put out new signage out there for the camp regulations once this is passed. I kind of talked to our public works operations manager, and he's looking at signs right now to put that up. We do get a fair amount of vandalism out there, which is why the sheriff's deputies are out there fairly regularly, but we will update that. And as for marketing, we did update the website to kind of advertise it a little bit more, but it's not a prominent part of the city.
So just comment on our city code currently indicates that no camping at city parks unless posted, no overnight camping. So we will have to address the permit, there'll have to be signage telling people that you need to come get a permit at the park, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just a motion to approve the policy, and we'll get working on the signage.
Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the staff recommendations for camping at Wilderness Park.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Matt Brand.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Monaco.
Yes.
Lane. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mike?
Yes, Mayor?
Discussion, budget discussion.
Yes. Well, we're working our way through it, aren't we? This has been the case last several meetings. We'll want to wrap this meeting up with discussion on the budget. I've already presented you baseline budgets with all the city funds and indicated we are also working our way through a capital improvements plan update, currently in the kind of the public comment section of that. We have some surveys on the website and other engagements to get feedback on the list of capital improvements projects. So tonight, primarily what I wanted to focus on are budget enhancements. And this is sort of a process that Brandon actually suggested we sort of implement this year. by presenting the baseline budget, just status quo services, and then presenting a separate sort of discussion where we talk about these enhancements that come from department heads and outside sources and just staff. And you've seen this list. I presented it to you in June, the entire list. We didn't really discuss it at that point, but I'd like to go through it in a little bit of detail tonight. And I do have a recommendation for which ones of those to approve and implement, and which ones of those probably should forego, at least for now. The first thing I did, though, is update the baseline budget forecasts. So we have another month of data available to us. One of the challenges with the budget here in Kansas is we're setting it for 2026, and we're only just now have the data for halfway through 2025. So it's always a little bit of a challenge. So what we like to do during the process is that we get information that can update those projections. We do update the projections because it makes a difference to our fund balance. So I've done that. Exhibit A is the updated projections. Just quickly, things that have changed since the last time. The sales tax projections continue to be stronger than we had estimated before. So overall, total sales tax projections for 2015, the last time we saw this was a little over 3 million, and I'm projecting now about 3.5 million. Franchise fee projections also have increased by 100,000. We're starting now to see, after we had a grand opening ceremony and Panasonic is actually producing batteries, we're actually seeing that in their electric use. Franchise fees have gone up, I think, $36,000 compared one month to the other. So we're starting to see some of that activity. So increase those a little bit. Item 4 there is kind of a housekeeping thing. We have this agreement with Panasonic to fund third-party inspections for all the construction work that's going on out there. Quite a big expenditure for that. Really is just passed through, but budgetary, it's kind of been commingled in the inspection department's contractual budget. So I just separated those out. You notice in the spreadsheet. So really it has no budget impact. It's kind of just a housekeeping thing to separate. The other thing I did kind of corresponding to that is in the contractual line item for the inspection department, I've also included that as well. And we've reduced those. We thought that amount would be about a little over $1.2 million for this year. And it looks like it's not going to be quite that much, around $800,000 for that pass-through activity. Minor modifications for capital outlay. We've now kind of finalized our vehicle equipment replacement program plan, and lease rates have adjusted, minor adjustments to those. And then the contractual expense category in the admin department. So difficult to predict right now, but we're going to have insurance premium increases as a result of taking ownership and possession of the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. So we've done $100 million of improvements to those facilities. That's going to cost more to insure, and so Brandon's done it the best he can in trying to predict what those are going to be. Initially, we thought those were going to be a little bit more. I think we can be less conservative with those. So I've reduced those expenditures, projected expenditures, from $745,000 down to $700,000. So the chart there on whatever page of the staff report, on page 2 of the staff report, should look very familiar to you. This is just the updated projections. So we've got the year-end projection. The column there is highlighted. Looks like we're going to end the year about a little over $8 million. You see this trend line, the blue trend line, kind of tracks year-end fund balances with our fiscal policy of maintaining 30% of allocations as a fund balance reserve. One thing I've done differently in this is you see the orange line near the bottom. That charts what that 30% is. So it charts for each year, it kind of charts. So I think it's a little better indicator than kind of the graph, the chart thing on the secondary axis. But in practice, what you kind of do is take the year-end fund balance and subtract that 30% amount and see kind of how much theoretical extra we sort of have to work with. We talked about this a little bit. So what you see more or less is the fund balances kind of level off at, 5.2, 5.3 million. 30% level sort of levels off, at around 3 million. So the difference there is about a $2.3 million if you just look at the baseline budget. That's more than I think last time we were talking about somewhere around like a $1.8 million figure. So that's increased by that amount, and just as a result of mostly these revenue protections. So that's the baseline budget refresh that OECON is like. So the next item, and I think the primary item that we want to go over tonight, are the budget enhancement requests. So Exhibit B to the staff report includes all of the budget requests. This is essentially the same exhibit that I had given before, I think it was in June. We provided it, didn't really talk much about it. There's been one addition to that. The DeSoto Case Committee, not to single anybody out in the room, but has made it a request. At the last meeting we talked about for this year, and in future years, the request is for that to continue. So we have historically had a $4,000 investment there. They're asking for a total of 25, so I've added a 21,000 in the out years of our projection. And we like to look at a 5-year window here rather than just so there are a total of 19 of these requests, which represents just over $1 million in funding for 2026 in total. My recommendation is that we approve 12 of those, and deny is a hard word, but I think we defer at least the rest. So this will add about $417,000 in expenses for the general fund. One of these is one of the recommended approvals would actually be a capital improvement, so that would go into the capital improvement budget. So in the staff report, there's this table here that gives the title, and I don't want to belabor anyone, and I don't want to go too fast or too slow, so I think engage by body language, I guess, if you're falling asleep on it. So just to kind of step through these, the first one, and these are relatively in order. I mean, I've kind of ranked them 1, 2, 19, and this is sort of what I perceive as sort of a ranked order. I don't know that the ranking matters at all. It's the order I put them in. So relatively random, but it's based on what I think this is my priority. The first one is a new, essentially a custodian for City Hall. We're doubling the amount of space we have here at the facility. We'll be adding staff here to the facility. This is almost a mandatory addition. We just won't have, if we don't hire this in-house, we're going to have contracting services for. So that's the first one, a maintenance custodian technician for this building, and that's a budgeted amount just over $60,000, and obviously that's not just a one-time, that continues throughout. The next one is the CIP item, $160,000 to expand the sidewalk replacement program. Currently in the CIP, we've got a $60,000 line item in that. We've done that $60,000 for many years now. And Joe recommended to increase the sidewalk to by 80 and increase or 280 and add a curb replacement program. So $160,000 annual, that does go to the CIP. That's the recommendation. And if you'll remember some of our CIP discussions, we've kind of categorized some of these mandatory projects, kind of have to do them. So I would recommend that we put that one in there as a mandatory project. The next one is this increase to DeSoto Days, 21 grand. And again, that's an annual, so that you'll see that throughout the program. The next is a 20,000 increase to the street stealing program. That's in the street department budget. And again, that will continue with the year. The top of the next page then is a city clerk position. This is one that, again, with the increased administrative efforts here, increased programs, with permitting and just general activity, my time, Brandon's time. I really need Brandon to be focusing on higher level city administrative, HR, some more strategic planning, maybe some personnel planning, things like that. He is often bogged down with permitting for golf carts and permitting for camping fees, and some of the stuff that I would really like to be able to backfill a city clerk position. So the total of that would be about $80,000 a year. So that's salary and benefits and everything. In this spreadsheet, what I'm suggesting is maybe we hire that mid-year. I think we can talk about hiring that at the first of the year, depending on how revenues continue to come. But right now, in the projections that you'll see, there's $40,000 for 26 because it'd be a mid-year hire. Then 27 through 31 is the full position. The next one is grant writing support. This is, to be able to hire outside consultants to help us. Largely, we're kind of queued up to get some federal transportation money through the Mid-America Regional Council for 83rd Street. Big effort there. Big effort on 95th Street that we're faced with. Some pretty big projects in the CIP, and I think we need just some additional support to help us set ourselves up better for success in those. So a $40,000 level to that effort. The next line item is additional chamber and EDC support. So I think most of us are aware. Chamber EDC is currently going through a restructuring and changing bylaws, kind of how that works with the leadership there. Of course, Tim is relatively new in his position, as is Laura down there. And one of the things that has been suggested is that we enter into a direct contract for services with the EDC, so that we can articulate from the city's perspective what is expected, the services that we're getting for the investment. So there's a little bit additional information in the packet, a letter from Tim, and just an initial scope draft of what the contract might entail there. So this is an additional support of $100,000 per year. Now this one, it would be a decrease in the idea is that as that organization grows, the transition takes place and the organization grows, that it goes from $100,000 level commitment in 26 and 27, and then decreases in 28 to a 75, and then eventually, I think in the out years, I have only a $35,000 commitment there. That's just in the projection, obviously, this is a year. I think it's just, past 3 years have been critical for us, and I think the next 3 to 5 years is going to in making sure that we attract the right type of development and again set ourselves up for the best outcomes of what's possible there at the Astor Enterprise Park, Flint development, and all the other developments happening around there, and then also growing the chamber. The chamber organization is, there's just a lot of transition everywhere, and the chamber, in my view, is an organization that can really help us with the connection of all the crazy new stuff that's going on, translating that to the existing citizenry, the existing businesses, everybody who's already here, and making sure that everybody's engaged in part of the vision that I think we sort of are hopeful about. So, belabor that one anymore. So, the next item there is a plans examiner. So this one, Cameron's come to me. So we see with Merck's expansion that's been announced, and the other development that's going on, Cameron is seeing that they may fall behind in just reviewing plans, not necessarily boots on the ground inspections or codes enforcement, but plans examiner. And so it is in the budget, but there's also a corresponding revenue increases from a building permitting standpoint. So this one, like others we've done in that department, is contingent upon getting the revenue streams going. So this might also be a mid-year hire. This one might also wind up being half of that amount, but this one is contingent on throughout the year having those revenues come in. The next one is a community events coordinator. I think we've seen, of course, the number of events just kind of explode, certainly this year with every day, every Friday. But just even if you take those out, we're doing a lot more events, and it's very helpful. Those are often on the weekends, in the evenings, and Whitney has really been full up with her, even with Libby coming on. We're just doing a lot more engagement. So this would be fully offset by a reduction in the consulting budget. So right now, we're relying heavily on base communications in the past, Shockey. So this 87.5 is, there's a corresponding reduction in the contracting services of the community. So basically, this would be a no impact budgetary. The next one, city pavement and street signs assessment. This is a one-time thing. Joe needs help with street conditions assessment to kind of serve as a baseline. We did this a few years ago, and it kind of comes up. We need to refresh that, so it's pretty easy. It's just a one-time thing. Sanitary sewer GIS mapping. Our current maps are pretty old. This would be another one-time thing. The paint machine. So this would be a striping, a pavement striper. So rather than contracting that out, we'll be able to do that ourselves. So the impact there is $20,000. So those total recommended approvals about $750,000. Be approved for the general funds about $514,000, but there are offsetting revenues and expense reductions. So we talked about offsetting revenues for building inspections and offsetting expenses and communications. So we're offsetting about 97 of that. So the total general fund impact for 2026 is about $417,000. So when you plug all those recommended into the 5-year projections and you look at this is what results. And so when you look at how much extra money there is, you take the difference between the top of those blue bars toward the out and the orange, you get about $1 million. So compare that to the baseline. We'll just have the same budget, might have an extra 2.3. If you do all these in the out years, it looks like you have about an extra 1. And that's the result of the ongoing. You hire somebody that's ongoing. That largely is the bulk of the discussion. I did want to talk a little bit the revenue neutral rate. We did talk about this at the last council meeting. We have to. That's due here
Friday.
We got to
tomorrow.
We got to turn it in tomorrow. What we talked about was, with Panasonic counting as that TIF revenue counting as tax revenue, our revenue neutral rate would be, I think it's 6.6 mils. Don't see it in the cards to make that, but we did our own revenue neutral rate. And in essence, what it shows is residential properties are going to increase the value, the assessed value of the residential properties has increased by a certain percentage. So we're going to decrease the mill levy by that percentage, so that regular, residential property owners on total will pay the same amount of that. And that rate is about 12.94 is what that rate is, and that's our own calculated. We call it the DeSoto revenue neutral rate. My suggestion is that we go ahead, since we know we're going to exceed it, so we notify the county we're going to exceed the revenue neutral. Let's set that at 13.77 mils, which is the amount that's currently being levied, just to give ourselves just that little bit of room, because we have another month and a half to finalize the budget. So that'd be my recommendation. Of course, open to other suggestions, but we do need to make a final decision. Okay, I'm done. Happy day.
Answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion points?
Little question, Mike. I assume the pavement and street sign assessment and the sanitary sewer gas mapping will both be outsourced.
Yeah, that's,
So, and the 30 grand felt about right to me for this size. The 10 grand feels low if it's going to be outsourced. I don't know where you came up with that number, but probably another 30 felt about right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, we're collecting the data system, take that data, put it into a GIS form. I think Martin talked to PEC, they're the ones who've been helping us with our GIS application. So we collect a lot of the data, so they're just working with us to take that data.
Okay, so it's not the going out
Yeah, it's not
and
that.
collecting.
We're doing that. with
Okay.
our own, yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, one of the comments I had was, last year going through the budgeting process, we had talked about city clerk. I had brought that up of, that's one of our basically mandatory positions that we have to have. And I do not see holding that off to mid-year. We were talking about needing it potentially this year even. So, I mean, if we're gonna start one partway through the year, start the community events coordinator partway through the year, at a city clerk position, full-time and starting for the whole year. Because I mean, we talked about that a year ago, needing that to be a full-time position so that Brandon can be relieved of the responsibilities that are state mandated on that one. And I mean, when you look at the reports and look at the research and look at what he's been bringing to us, he's definitely busy enough that taking that off his plate sooner than later is probably appropriate.
we'll need a resignation from him.
Yeah.
Just for the city clerk piece.
Yeah.
I'm glad to give it.
I think my wife would write it for me, I think.
Well, if there's no other discussion, then,
Well,
yeah.
Just like, we had talked about some help, like the grant writing's great, but maybe someone to help in Topeka or DC. A lobby, I mean, the L word, right?
Government
We do have big needs and to get those big asks in, we might, I mean, I would think might be benefit from spending something similar to what we're spending on the grant writing support for some sort of lobbying effort in Topeka and an occasional visit to our DC delegation to help us, with those.
That could potentially be a combined position.
Or combine
Where
that.
That's a grant writing and government affairs.
Yeah, something
position.
like that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to kind of get an idea about what sort of services for what sort of price, and we can.
Mike, can I just interject one thing?
Sure.
Jay and I talked about this before, the custodial position. I'm wondering if there's any wiggle room to maybe bring that position towards the end of the year as the upstairs area opens up. Able would probably be overwhelmed doubling our floor space. We're expected to be done sometime in the fall.
How many do we have working this building now?
We have one full-time custodian.
Able.
Yeah, Able.
How many
Yeah.
part-time?
We have Jay one part-time, two part-time. Kind of depends how you look at it.
It's kind of convoluted. So Able is Monday through Friday.
Which Able does a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
Able's an amazing guy.
As long as you can understand and get on his wavelength, he's good. I agree. We're fine. I have, I guess you could call two part-time, what we call monitors that work on the weekend. They are basically set up and clean up for events, things like that. They do some light cleaning in the community center side on the weekend. But in terms of the center portion of the building, the shop, and the community center Monday through Friday. It's just one person for 8
How many
hours.
square feet currently and how many square feet when the remodel's done?
Oh, boy.
A really good question.
Or even, I mean, are we doubling the amount of space?
Yeah,
that they can
essentially,
have,
yeah.
or-
Yeah. I mean, you've got basically this floor we're currently using, so you're gonna have a basement that's pretty much the same size. Will be not necessarily occupied like this level, be more rental space or arts council, those types of things. And then top floor will be, I think, actually occupied by more staff than this floor
So
will
increasing
be.
at least
So,
33%.
yeah,
Not
yeah, yeah.
I think maybe the ask would be as that, once people go upstairs, we could start to search for that position, just to kind of relieve.
Yeah, there's different ways. Brandon and I have talked about it and got Mike involved a little bit today. I don't like to spend money more than we need to. But an ask would be that it would be nice to get somebody on board, preferably right before everybody moves and gets set, so there could be some training done on the rest of the building to kind of get the feet wet versus just diving in. Because at that point, we're going to have to divide. Still haven't exactly finalized how to do it. It might be a staggered time frame a little bit, as well as specific areas. They work together, but more specific that this is yours and this is yours type of thing. But and we're seeing more and more with more people in the community, more and more activity going on in the community center too, which to keep a good standard of cleaning, I would like to be able to up the level that we're currently producing. And it's, like I said, it's nothing against Abel. He does everything he possibly can. But I mean, if you just look at the footprint as well, so it's quite a bit. So just to.
Are you wanting full-time or part-time or?
Full-time, yeah. Just my experience is, no offense to anybody, but when you get somebody part-time, you got to really get the right person for part-time. And when you ask for part-time custodial help, it's even tougher to get somebody to be consistent.
Somewhat tough anyway.
Yeah, somewhat consistent, and then also have a kind of a vested interest, I guess you could say, in what they're doing. So typically when you get full-time, you more than likely are to get those abilities.
Brandon, your ask was to advertise for that.
Yeah,
Or to have that position ready to go when we start to occupy.
Yeah.
Upstairs
sometime in the fall is what I'm hearing.
after Labor Day.
Yeah.
I don't know what that-
Yeah, I don't know if we have a necessarily a set date yet, but as we get closer to it, and we'd obviously bring that to council for approval, but.
In other words, when you get to that point, bring us a formal request, but you're kind of
Yeah.
asking if we would be open to the formal request when it comes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out timeline now. I spoke with the superintendent on the job today, and he's still saying middle of September that people would be able to occupy the top floor and the bottom floor. Mike's shaking his head. So I mean, it's kind of open, but I don't want to get too far behind because we need some time to advertise. So still trying to find that happy medium of doing it.
When
So
that time comes, I'm fully supportive.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
You've got to change some numbers, Mike.
Yeah, so there's a couple follow-ups.
We need to authorize publication of the revenue rate,
yeah.
revenue neutral rate.
Revenue neutral rates, really.
Oh, that's what we have to
That's
do.
only, that's only action.
Just that one item. There's several other things to follow up on, the lobbyist idea, the incorporation of the city clerk, January 1.
What R&R rate were we talking? 13?
13.77, which is the rate that is in effect right now.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, publish that. We'll do that.
This has all been budget discussion all these times, except for we need the R&R
Yeah, this
rate
is
to
the first
publish.
time we need to make a commitment on something.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why don't we take care of that?
So I'll make a motion, we approve the 13.77 revenue neutral rate submission to the county, knowing that that is our maximum, but we can go below that. And that's not committing us to go that high.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
McMorran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. That was the key base business on that, and then we'll have several more budget discussions as the summer progresses. Right? All right. Advisory reports then. Mike, anything?
Yes, Council, speaking of summer progressing, I'm going to be out of the office July 29th, 22nd to the 29th. So it's this Tuesday through next Tuesday.
Okay.
And in addition to that, I will not be here the August 7th council meeting. FYI, on those two things.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, Patrick?
Nothing for me.
All right. Planner, Joe?
Just two quick things. So we had a little bit of flooding of Red Voices today at 95th Street out by Corliss, or not Corliss, Cedar Creek Parkway. But that's all been opened up. We had some flooding on 95th Street. Just east of the bridge didn't flood. It flooded, went across the road east, but by about noon or 1 proceeded. And then the other thing is the closure for 95th Street between Kill Creek and Lexington. That will start Monday, the 21st. I sent an email to the sheriff to remind them of that closing today. They had message boards out. We'll put construction, road speed limit construction signs at 30 miles an hour along the roadway. And then I also emailed them to make sure that they were going to bring out a speed trailer for westbound traffic to make sure that, more specifically, the large gravel trucks are obeying the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Where is that?
So that's supposed to last about 2 weeks. So I think they're going to work 12-hour days and hopefully get it done before the 2 week. That's all I have.
Where is that from where to where?
The closure is going to be on 95th Street, just east of Lexington Avenue.
Okay.
That's where the closure will be. So what that means is the quarry traffic has to go east.
Yeah, it's right next to their drive entrance.
Yeah.
It's where the sewer's crossing.
Yeah, between the drive entrance and the railroad track is where the crossing is at.
Yeah.
We're going to send them out 2 weeks. We went to the county. Their special use permit pretty much restricted going east, but the county's given a 2 week stay to be able to allow us to do the project and the trucks to go out east.
And the speed sign will be westbound.
Yep, westbound, coming down the hill.
Will be empty trucks.
Coming down that hill, back, just want to make sure we don't have speeding vehicles. There's some difficult sight distances on some of those driveways right in that area.
And so we did get with Lochner regarding the bridge, one of the concerns. But my first call was to Lochner and said, we don't have any load restrictions on this bridge. Yes, now it'll be fine for what we need to do.
Okay.
Question, Waverly Trail status?
What's that?
Waverly Trail status?
Yep, so I'm meeting with BEC Monday or Tuesday. BG, sorry about that. With BG on Monday, we'll finalize the 2 end connections, what we need to do. What I'm asking for, do we really need to have the one on 95th Street since we don't have a sidewalk on the side? And then make sure we get the entrance exit at the very south end. So they're done with construction documents. So we should be at the end of next week to be able to go out to bid.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else for Joe? All right. Brandon.
We start phase 2 of the property tax program, so that opens up to anyone under the age of 65 that meets those income qualifications. But there still is money available, so if you know people that are interested, please send them up. Outside of that, nothing today, Mayor.
Council comments. Kevin, you want to start us tonight?
Just a reminder that I'll miss the August 21st meeting.
Okay. Rhonda, anything for the council tonight?
No.
All right. Rob?
Reminder that if I'm going to be at the August 7th meeting, I'll be virtual. I landed about 4:52 coming back from Canada that day, so I'll try and be virtual, but no promises considering I'm coming back from international. And then one other question, and if you know the answer, Mike, great. Valley Springs has gotten a lot of attention this week. My question, they had low-income tax credits at one point. When did those roll off, or are they off yet? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
So probably could follow up on
Because
it. It's been a long time. I don't know how.
Yeah, but whether it was 15 or 30 years, because one of the things I've thought I've been trying to verify was if they actually rolled off recently, if it was a 30-year, because that would be
okay.
about the time of that they've been there. So, so if you could check on that one.
Find out.
Victoria?
The only thing is, welcome, Rhonda. I wasn't here last time, so.
Thank you.
All right. Danny?
I wanted to thank Joe and the street department for their work out on Cedar Creek and keeping people safe. I know that they had vehicles all over the place over the bridge being overran at on 95th and the other side of Cedar Creek to get out to 83rd. We had water over the road there, and they put up barricades and kept people from going through there, which was great. They were ahead of the game and ahead of the water. So I thank the street department for their diligence and what they did. All right.
All right. I have just one item, update kind of issue item. I think we will have a presentation by the county on the public safety sales tax coming up at a meeting in August. And so as that is advertised as a public safety sales tax, it was originally passed to fund the reconstruction of the courthouse, and now it's being proposed to be renewed for public safety. I want us to be thinking about as if it is successful, that maybe we focus that on public safety here in DeSoto, and that consider something maybe a little different, that we'll direct half of that to our sheriff's contract so that it would go direct to our budget, but we could target that directly to our police. And then we look at revenue sharing the other half of that with the fire district. They're not participating agency in the benefit of the sales tax, but the fire district receiving that sales tax funds would help all of our residents, because it would allow them to potentially lower the mill rate for fire protection and benefit, since most of the fire district taxpayers are DeSoto residents, thereby helping our residents as well. But it would be a means to direct it to the uses that it is intended, and I think it would be a show of good faith to our fire district partners as well. So, Brandon, is that going to be the first meeting in August that they're coming?
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me a minute. I checked my email. Yeah, August 7th.
Yeah,
is when they'll be here.
Our next meeting, they'll be here to present, the sales pitch for that. The information on the stuff, not a sales pitch. The information on the sales tax.
It is worth noting, in our budget projections, I've assumed the sales tax goes away. So we're not counting on it continuing. So if it does get approved by the voters, we found money.
How much has that been to us?
It's been pretty consistent, about $140,000 a year, consistently.
That's all I have.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.